Please put your hands together as we welcome Wisdom Ahiataku-Togobo, Sustainable Energy Specialist, for yet another presentation.
Thank you very much. Please permit me to stand on the existing protocol and go straight to the point in order to save some time. When we talk about 24-hour economy, we are looking at the transport sector, the hospitality sector, health services, entertainment, and our presenter from the Office of the President emphasized more on agro-processing and value addition to natural resource. And I'm going to emphasize my presentation as far as that is concerned. Ghana is endowed with a lot of natural resources. We have the diamond, we have the gold, we have the bauxite, we have iron ore, we have recently discovered lithium. Our land is also very rich and can be used to produce enough food for our consumption and also for export. We have the ability to produce the rice that we eat. We have the ability to produce all the maize that we have, but yet still we do import most of this. Our land is also good for producing cash crops like timber, cocoa, tobacco, among others. And above all, the energy that is needed to add value to this also abounds in Ghana. We have the hydropower, we have petroleum products, we have oil, we've discovered oil, we have natural gas, we have biomass, and we have solar. So when we talk about 24-hour economy, particularly targeting economic development and industrialization, you realize that you will need the energy that is required needs to be affordable because you have to be competitive with other countries. Again, when we talk about 24-hour economy, operating 24 hours, it also means that our current electricity demand may have to double or triple, especially when it comes to operating industries. So, access to affordable and reliable electricity is very, very necessary in order for us to drive this 24-hour economic concept. If you look at the whole world, you realize that most industrialized countries depend on coal, natural gas, nuclear, and hydro in order to support their industries because these energy options come cheaper. You can't rely on oil-based power generation to drive industry. So you can see from the graph on the right that coal, natural gas, nuclear, and hydro dominates the power generation system in the whole world. And I'll just try to show some of the developing countries that are industrializing at a very fast rate. And you all agree with me that China today is about the world manufacturer, and China is developing at a much faster rate. If you look at back down at 1990, China's installed capacity was 220 gigawatts. Today, as we talk, there are almost 3,000 gigawatts. And most of the energy is derived from coal. China is a signatory to the Paris Agreement. India is a signatory to the Paris Agreement. But they've all realized that electricity from coal is cheaper than the other options, and therefore they are depending on that. Indian, for instance, realizing that they need cheap power to support their 24-hour economy, especially after they went through some drought and decided to make sure that they will not import food. India took a decision to introduce very low tariffs for agriculture. Electricity for irrigation, electricity for processing agricultural goods is as low as 2 cents per kilowatt hour because they realize that during the day there may be excess generation, and instead of saying we are paying for excess generation without being used, they have converted that to make sure that they can produce enough food for their population and for export. When we take Brazil, these are all developing countries operating 24-hour economy. Brazil relied mainly on their hydropower scheme. But this notwithstanding, Brazil took a decision to diversify its energy portfolio to include coal, nuclear, and other renewables in it. So why not Ghana? South Africa, South Korea, for instance, also had to rely mainly on coal, nuclear, and natural gas. In fact, South Korea has no coal. They have no uranium. They import these products, generate cheap power, and then they come to Africa, take Africa's mineral resources, add value to them, and bring it back to us at a higher fee. South Korea takes oil from Nigeria, process it into petrol, diesel, kerosene, brings it back to Africa, and sell it to us at the market price. That is innovation. Ghana's generation capacity, if you look at Ghana, as far back as 1970, Ghana's electricity generation capacity was almost 2 times that of Malaysia. 1970, Malaysia's generation capacity was just 420 megawatts, whereas Ghana was 760 megawatts. But today, Malaysia's generation capacity is as high as 45.5 gigawatts. What is Ghana's total generation capacity? 5.5. A country that had more generation capacity than Malaysia. But look at us. We have relied mainly on hydro, but not for the fact that we discovered natural gas recently. You can imagine the power situation we'll be going through. It is natural gas that has come to save us and to help us keep our power generation as it is. When most of these countries that were part of the Paris Agreement, realizing that they need cheap power to stimulate economic development, have taken the bold step to diversify, to look at nuclear, to look at coal, to look at all possible generation options. Ghana, our focus has been mainly on hydro, initially oil, but recently we found natural gas, and today natural gas accounts for almost 68% of our generation mix. And if you look at the graph on the right, you realize that electricity consumption in the industrial sector have not seen any significant growth. We've seen some growth in the residential sector and the service sector, but industries have still been quite low. And when it comes to electricity for agriculture, electricity for irrigation, or even for the transport sector, it is almost negligible. Yet, in 2020, November 2020, His Excellency the President, the former President, launched the Energy Transition Framework. And this framework sought to achieve net zero by 2070, and the target was that renewable energy, including hydro, will reach 20%, natural gas 34%, and nuclear achieving 46%. The framework totally eliminates oil. By 2070, it is intended that we will not use any fossil fuel, no coal, nothing. We will rely mainly on green energy. But in less than 10 months, the same president launched another policy program at the UN General Assembly, the Energy Transition Investment Plan. In fact, this is the latest policy direction in the power sector, which was launched at the UN office. And at this, the program said they were going to achieve 90% renewable energy, 10% nuclear, no natural gas, no energy from oil, no energy from coal. And the question we have to ask ourselves, in fact, it says that as much as 82% of our total electricity generation will come from solar. And you all agree with me, Ghana, we don't have the sun 24 hours. No. So if you are to rely on this sun to achieve 82% of our demand, then the question is this, with this projection, can we be able to achieve 24-hour economy with these energy projections? Your guess is as right as mine. If Ghana is to move forward with this 24-hour economy, then there is the need for a policy shift. Policy shift, resetting our policy targets to reconsider natural gas. Natural gas was considered in the framework 2022, but in 2023 policy, natural gas was eliminated. We have to reconsider to reintroduce natural gas. And I also believe strongly that the countries that are introducing energy transition, Germany, UK, following the Russian crisis, they've all reverted to develop and activate their coal power plants. It is about time that we follow the examples of Malaysia, the examples of India, and others, if we want to really achieve this 24-hour economy and industrialize with the energy resource we have. We need to also prioritize our investment in the grid and natural gas infrastructure. We have to pursue aggressively investment in the nuclear power program, because Ghana's currently, even though hydropower provides cheap power, we have exhausted most of our hydropower potential. But if you want to add more solar, as the previous speaker said, then you need a firm power to support these intermittencies. And in the absence of hydro, we need to look closely again at the natural gas, the nuclear, and possibly clean coal option. This is the only way we can be able to integrate more solar and wind into the grid network. If you look at our grid infrastructure, GridCo had proposed a lot of lines, 330 kV lines, 330 kV lines from Accra down to Takoradi, another one. We have a lot of lines proposed by GridCo. They've also proposed 225 kV lines and even 161 kV line power lines and improvement in their substations. Unfortunately, I think the GridCo CEO is here. I don't have to talk for him. They are cash strapped and they cannot achieve most of their proposed projects. Take 24-hour economy in every region, as the speaker said. If you take, for instance, the transmission line from Sogakope all the way to KJB, it's a 69 kV line. It is hopefully inadequate to support any industrial activity. GridCo had proposed to extend, to upgrade that line to 161, but no cash. But these are areas that if we are able to support them aggressively, it gives us the opportunity to expand our electricity network. We don't only need electricity for lighting, but we need electricity to stimulate economic development. We need it to drive industries in the countryside. If we take our gas infrastructure, as we talk today, the gas infrastructure is only concentrated in the western enclave, the blue line you see there. Meanwhile, we have a lot of load demand upwards through Kumasi all the way to Bupe. There are plans to extend this over there, but again, no financial resource to support it. We need to even have a loop from Accra to connect to Kumasi, and also to connect from Accra, have a reverse flow from Takoradi to Accra, and also have a loop to support the West African gas, so that at least at all times, should there be any challenge, all our generation plants should have enough gas to provide reliable, affordable power. This is the only way we can be able to drive 24-hour economy, stimulating industrial growth. Again, let's take our nuclear power program. Nuclear power has been integrated into the national energy policy. And following that, the Nuclear Power Program Organization was established. The Nuclear Regulatory Authority was also established. The country established the owner-operator, which is the first limited liability company for Ghana's first nuclear plant. This has also been established. It was established in 2017. But unfortunately, Between 2017 and now, very little achievement has been made. Why? Because there is no dedicated funding to support the nuclear program. At the moment, it is only Bui Power Authority and VRA, and sometimes GridCo, that extends a hand of support to the nuclear power program. And as far as they have no support, it is very difficult to move aggressively towards the development of nuclear. Ghana needs a dedicated funding commitment if we want to see our nuclear power plant see the light of day. If you take nuclear power plants in the world, show me just one country with a nuclear power plant, and I can tell you that that country is industrialized. Look at the whole graph. You realize that South Africa is the only country with nuclear power plant. And it's not surprising that South Africa is the only industrialized country on the whole continent. Nuclear has the potential to drive industry. Nuclear has the potential to add value to even bringing on board more intermittent solar and wind energy. Now, if you look at countries that have nuclear, I've just tried to list the top 10 nuclear countries, and you realize that these are the same countries that are leading in intermittent solar and wind. No, solar doesn't come continuously, and it's not even 24 hours. Effectively, you can get maximum 6 hours of sunshine in a day, and it comes intermittently. So you need a robust alternate generation to support the smoothing of it. And you can see that if Ghana is to increase our renewable energy contribution in the national grid, then we need firm power to support this. And this firm power should come from natural gas, nuclear, or coal. That is the only way we can increase renewable energy integration into the grid. Next, please. So in conclusion, I will say that current policy direction in Ghana's transition is too ambitious to support the 24-hour economy. If we need to do it, then we have to revisit our policy framework. We can't rely on 82% solar to drive industries and stimulate economic activity in this country. Do you want to use batteries? You pay out of your nose if you have to use batteries throughout the night to support industrialization. We need to reconsider our policy scheme and also look at diversifying our energy mix. If other countries are going in for coal and they are driving industries and they are producing for us to take, what prevents us from also looking into those directions? We have natural gas. We need to maximize it. If our current gas processing plant is inadequate to meet our demand, let us increase it. If you have to get a second gas processing plant, let us do it. If you have to increase the infrastructure, increase the pipeline, let us do that. With adequate gas facility, we can be able to provide even thermal and heating power to support industries. We can use natural gas to produce LPG to reduce the dependence on wood as firewood and charcoal. So natural gas has a very important role to play as far as 24-hour economy is concerned. And again, like I said earlier on, if we want to stimulate and increase the deployment of renewable energy in this country, then there's the need for a firm base load. And that base load should be affordable. That base load should be cheap. That's the only way you can bring on board some of this. So investment in grid and natural gas infrastructure is critical to support 24-hour economy. And like I said earlier on, Ghana also needs dedicated funding commitment to develop all this. So what we should be looking at is how do we raise the needed funding to support some of this infrastructure? Do we look into private sector investments? Do we look into PPP arrangements? These are the areas we should be thinking of. We should think big, raise the necessary funding to touch on all this. When you have developed these firm power options, like all the other countries did, then you can go and produce your solar, produce your wind in order to support and go green. But we can't go green solar by importing solar panels from China and using it here. We have lithium, we can produce the batteries locally, we export the resource out, and then they produce the battery outside and they bring it to us, and we say we want to go electric based on imported batteries, imported resources. This will not help us with our 24-hour economy. Let us see how best we can raise the needed funding to support the establishment of all this basic infrastructure. So with this, I want to say a very big thank you to you. I have with me WAC Energy is it's a consortium of sustainable energy professionals, most of them having over 30 years experience in the power sector. I have two of my managing partners here. Engineer Sakifio, can you just raise your hand, and Engineer Charles Nuoklu. So we provide consultancy services for sustainable energy in the power sector. Thank you very much.